Hello, what's up guys? I just came back from my road trip from Melbourne to Adelaide, and as you can see my luggages are all still here, and I'm going to bring you guys through my road trip. You'll find my vlogging a little bit too long. I will also be releasing a music travel vlog which is a lot quicker, all the glimpses of the places that I went in probably like just a few minutes. And yeah, let's begin and I'll show you where I've gone and give my reviews too, so let's go! Alright, so this is my 9 days itinerary for my road trip from Melbourne to Adelaide. Of course, the first thing that I've always done is to eat, and the first stop was to Universal Restaurant. I think I've been there several times because the food over there is really good. The milkshakes are exceptional, the chicken schnitzel is really good, and I also heard that the carbonara over there is fantastic. So far all the food have not failed our expectations, so if you want really good value for money for your food, this is the place to go. Of course, following that we just went for some desserts at Glow Gelato, which is right beside the restaurant, and the next day we got breakfast from Lune Croissanterie. So over here the pastries quite average, I would say. There's some hype about this cafe, but I think there's other options that you can also look out for. You don't really necessarily have to go to this place. Pricing wise, average, food average, but I think the vibes is quite nice. So if you like the vibes, the atmosphere, I think it's a good place to visit. And of course our next stop is the Fitzroy Market, and over here you can find some sort of like a flea market, and if you enjoy flea market and just looking at things, it is a nice place to stop by. Right over beside this market is the Rose Street Market, where it's a little bit more of like a place to buy gifts, a little bit more like artsy stuff, and if you really like this kind of like artsy stuff, it's a good place to come and visit. Following that we went to South Melbourne Market to get some jam donuts. Of course, it's a classic place to go for. They also come in other different flavors like Nutella and cinnamon, so quite a good place to get some sugar in. And also of course the seafood there is amazing. The seafood, the cheese, the meat and the ham, really nice place to visit and get some food. So I'll skip all of our shopping places to go because it'll be quite boring to mention and film. So the next food stop that we are going to is ChangGo KBBQ. However, like price wise might be a little bit expensive, but the food quality is amazing, it's exceptional. So do visit it if you really want to have good KBBQ. And I also think that the local like Australian meats are really like fantastic, which also makes like all of the meat, the beef, the pork, even the chicken really nice to eat all around in Australia. And for a road trip, of course you need a car, and I went for Simba Car Hire and blown away by their services. It is very easy to collect a car. Just go over to their branch, and they also provide free shuttle services if you are dropping by the airport. The car wise, very clean, new, and totally recommend it. And when I returned the car, it's also very hassle free, very simple. They just did a couple of checks and have all the administration done within like a couple of minutes. So recommendation to get Simba Car Hire. And once we got our car, it is time for our road trip driving out of Melbourne. The sad thing about the first few days in Melbourne and the Great Ocean Road is the very feisty weather. There's a lot of rain coming down, sunshine rain. It is very common right here in Melbourne and even the Great Ocean Road. So the first stop we went to was the Great Ocean Road Chocolate and Ice Creamery, and of course it's indoors, so we won't be affected by the rain. And we really wanted to go to so many of the Great Ocean Road like lookouts, the different attractions, but because of the rain we are unable to do many of these things, and we have to skip past some of these lighthouses and some of these lookouts and go straight to Apollo Bay, where we'll be spending our first night out of Melbourne, out of the city. And following that we went to the Cape Otway Lighthouse, like a little bit of a detour from the following like Great Ocean Road attractions. However, you have to pay to get in to see the lighthouse. I think the fee is about 22 Australian dollars, but if you don't really want to spend any money, there's also a short trek, about 30 minutes like to and fro trek, which you're able to just walk and see the lighthouse from a distance. I would say it's quite small, the lighthouse, because you have to walk really far to just get a glimpse of the lighthouse. But yeah, it's free and you get what you never paid for. And yeah, after our short trek and trail visiting the lighthouse, we went to the Castle Cove lookout, which is along the Great Ocean Road, continuing our journey. And over here is just a
a little bit like of area where you can park beside the main road. There's quite a bit of space. It's a single lookout to see the really beautiful ocean and the rock formations. The 12 Apostles is one of the highlights, one of the biggest viewing places on the Great Ocean Road. Many different viewing platforms. And after our really short, just a few lookouts due to really unfortunate weather, we went for a distillery to have some whiskey gin tasting at Timboon. Of course, if you are drinking, make sure to have a designated driver so that you don't drink and drive. Following that, we got to go back down to the Great Ocean Road to the Razorback lookout, and of course the Bay of Islands, which is right at the end of the Great Ocean Road. The further away the attractions are, like the Bay of Islands, the fewer amount of people there is. So if you like it less crowded, you can just go for the attractions which is a bit further away, the Bay of Islands. And after our Bay of Islands stop, it is time to travel all the way down the road to Port Fairy. And over there, one of the main things to see is the Lighthouse, the Port Fairy Lighthouse, which is on Griffiths Island, and it's about like a 1.2 kilometers to a 1.6 kilometers walk depending on the path that you want to take. So not a very long walk, and it's very enjoyable because there is the inland walk and also the coastal or the beach walk, and you will see that you get as close up to the lighthouse as possible. This is one of the better like free kind of lighthouse that you can visit. And the next morning we went to the Bank Street Cafe to get some breakfast. Really classic cafe material. I would say that in a small town like this, I guess it is quite impressive because there's not a lot of like cafes and restaurants around. So for Port Fairy, the Bank Street Cafe, there's many locals who visit it, so I would say that the food is really good. Then our next stop from Port Fairy town is the Crag. So it's similar to like Great Ocean Road viewings and lookouts, but it's a little bit more inland, and definitely not a lot of people will visit it because it's really far out. So when I went there, it's really beautiful. I'm able to fly my drone. Weather was starting to get better. There's no more rain after the town of Port Fairy, so able to get my drone up, get some really nice shots, and just admire the nature of the creek. And of course, when I Google search, there's something called the Yambuk slide. So we were very curious, my friends and I, and visited the Yambuk lake and the Yambuk slide. However, because I think the past few days it was rainy, the slide itself was really wet. There were like puddles of water, so we couldn't really try out the slide. It's a little shorter than I thought and a little more narrow. So sadly you didn't try the slide because it is wet. But this is it. After our short visit at Yambuk Lake, we decided to make a detour down to Port MacDonnell. Why we decided to make that detour is for lunch. We wanted to have some nice seafood, and it's like right at the coast. We ate at the Salt Cafe and Bar, and we of course ordered fish and chips. The fish and chips were really good, and I think it's quite worth your money there. And once our tummy is filled, we went over up to Mt Gambier and of course visit the Blue Lake first. Over at one of the apex lookout, you are able to see how this Blue Lake was formed. Basically it's some like volcanic eruption, and due to some of the chemical reactions from the Earth's core, this really causes the water to change it to a really like a nice blue greenish color. At first we thought that what could be so amazing about just this like Blue Lake, but it is spectacular. It's something that I probably will not be able to see in many other places because this is really a natural formation. And the thing about Mt Gambier is that there are a lot of sinkhole in the city, and one of the more renowned sinkhole is the Umpherston Sinkhole. Really quite a big sinkhole, and it is beautiful. They really have planted really nice garden right at the sinkhole, and like natural animals living around. So it's really nice to see like possums around the sinkhole. I saw a really big one, and of course the bees, a lot of living things living around the sinkhole, so it's really a natural sight to take a look. And of course we visited another sinkhole at the cave garden. Over time you see that all of these like sinkhole and caves will look kind of like similar. Of course, we have not gone to an actual cave yet, so the next morning we were headed to Narrowcoot to visit some of the caves, and the cave that we visited was the Stick Tomato Cave. Very spectacular, looking at the cave formations, and also along the way in the cave itself there are also some like tools and explanations on how the cave is formed. So it's really a nice learning journey. And also, of course, there's also the cave tours, which is free to enter, just some like history behind the cave. So it's a really nice place to visit. A little bit of a pit stop because our next drive will be all the way to Victor Harbour or Middleton, where we'll be staying. We also went to Lakebreeze Winery. So I was very impressed with the Lakebreeze Winery because this is one of the places where we did not know that the wine tasting was free of charge, and the very nice wine that they put out, and the person serving us was just amazing. I think his name was David. Really knowledgeable about all of the wine that he's offering to us, and it simply just breaks down the flavoring of the wine and like how this wine came about and when the grapevines or the vineyards were built and cultivated. So a good learning journey too. And of course, we also bought a couple of wines at the Lakebreeze Winery. And over at Victor Harbour, we went to a restaurant called Larder's Kitchen. The food was simply amazing. Price range wise, very reasonable. I would say that it's not expensive at all. The food that came out was so good. As you can see from the steak, the meat was cooked really well. Highly recommend to go over there. And along the road there were a couple of restaurants, but the Larder's Kitchen was the most lively. So definitely a good visit if you are at Victor Harbour. After that, the next morning we'll be heading off to Encounter Bay, which entails like a short hike on different routes that we can take. And when we reach the top, it's such a nice feeling to feel the cold breeze and also like the landscape, different like formations there. Yeah, so I think that was one of the things that we did. We also wanted to go to the Granite Walk, but didn't really have time in our itinerary, so that would be a pass. And hopefully we'll come back again to visit more different places in Australia. And of course, do write down in the comment section any other really good places that you would recommend me to go, and I will be happy to indulge on it. So of course, after this like short hike, we went to Beerenberg, a really nice like jam factory, a jam place or strawberry farm. They sold a whole ton of different jams, from the sweet to the savory ones, which I was quite impressed. I didn't know they sold savory jams. We bought quite a few back, and you also get to taste the different jams at the tasting station. So a really nice place to visit if you are really interested in jams. You'll be exposed to the world of jams. And right nearby it is the Hahndorf village. It is a German like settlement, I think a German village settlement. Really nice place, a really different environment. There are also a couple of like restaurants that sold German food, and it was really nice to see and to experience different culture even within a very small area. So the restaurant we visited was called the Haus restaurant, and the pork belly just looks fabulous from its caramelization, and the food itself is simply delicious. And the next stop that we are headed to is Adelaide, and because we really enjoyed so many of our activities previously, we were so tired and we just wanted to go somewhere nearby to get some food. So for Adelaide, we stayed at West Beach, a really nice chill area right beside the beach. And one of the places that we saw was this like shack, this like restaurant or shack, and you know that it's good because this kind of like little small like shack restaurants sells really good fish and chips, and we visited the West Beach fish and chips shop, and the food was simply amazing. So I think it's the best fish and chips that I've tried so far on this road trip, and the portion wise is massive. We couldn't finish all of the food because there was so much food. This price is really like 10 out of 10, very worth your money, and the food is also 10 out of 10 for the money that you paid for. And next day, off to the big rocking horse. This is one of the big things that is ticked off my bucket list, the big rocking horse. And yeah, the rocking horse is really ginormous, huge, I would say. Not even big, but it is huge, and you are able to climb this giant or big rocking horse. It's like a couple of stories high, like about, I think it's about 50 meters, quite a tall like rocking horse. So after climbing the big rocking horse, we are famished, and we head over to Other Delights to get some food. Mainly this place sells a lot of cheese, which you can bring back, and like pizzas. And after that, we head off to Red Cacao to get some drinks and to buy some chocolate. And after that, we're off to Mount Lofty Summit. And of course, if you are early, you can also go to the Botanic Gardens, but we are slightly late. The Botanic Garden closed at 4 PM, so we were running out of time and had to go to the summit itself. So over at the summit, we encountered a couple of like wallabies. Of course, Australia is home to many wildlife, so it's really nice to see wallabies up close. And obviously these wallabies are not afraid of humans because they obviously see them every single day, as Mount Lofty is a tourist attraction area. And in Adelaide itself, it is never complete unless you go to the market, the central market in Adelaide. It is huge, similar to Melbourne South Market. They sell a ton of things, and I would say that there's much more variety of things at Adelaide compared to Melbourne Market, because I think the area itself seems like bigger, and they also really a wide variety of things like spices, breakfast, coffee, milkshakes, seafood. Pretty much everything you're able to find at Adelaide Market. Right at Adelaide, there is the premium outlets. Did not really feel much there because it's similar to all of the other harbour town premium outlets over in Australia. To end off this trip, I tried the Bunnings sausages. So these usually come about when there is somebody who wants to do like a fundraiser, and these Bunnings sausages go for about $3.50, and it comes with like a sausage with a slice of bread, and you can also like pour some tomato sauce. Pretty much self-service on the sauces. I love the Bunnings sausages and have not had it for quite a number of years. And this is it for my road trip. Right in the description box will be my entire itinerary of where I'll go, and also the chapter on if you want to see how it looks like. And if you like my video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys again real soon from the next video.